Well, considering the Cowboys fans outnumber the Giants and everyone else at least 3-1, I like my odds.
One never knows. Hey, I am your host, Stephen Van, over here on the Sports Talk Line Network, where we talk sports 24/7, 365. We are here to do the NFC East review of the 2020 NFL Draft, and we have a great crew set up here to do it. We'll work around the room and end up with the man that's going to do the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm going to handle the Washington Redskins. And of course, we have Tom, Mr. New York City. You're going to handle the Giants, I believe, Tom, right?
Yes.
It's going to be a pleasure. Going to be interesting to see what your take is on that now that you've had time to digest. Nate, no remorse doubted, you're going to be doing the Dallas Cowboys. And of course, we are going to hear about CeeDee Lamb, right?
Great on great action as usual.
And Spinkster, you're going to be bringing up the Philadelphia Eagles. Why don't we start with you? Dive right in. Let's review the Philadelphia Eagles. And we decided to put this in the order of worst team to best. That's why the Eagles are going first, based upon kind of how we're looking at their draft. Yeah.
We actually didn't speak about this earlier, but I'd like to apologize to Philly Eagles fans for the way I acted the last couple of days. It was inappropriate. It's been brought to my attention that you have got a quarterback already. You might not necessarily use Hurts going forward, but let's go through your picks first, okay? So you took a speedy wide receiver in the first round named Jalen Reagor. So now you're going to have 5 talented wide receivers. Unlike the Cowboys, who only have 3, but they're probably better talents than the 5 you guys currently have. So look, I'm sorry I was so angry at you on Thursday and Friday, and then you go ahead and you draft Jalen Hurts in the second round. What the hell are you thinking? You've got your quarterback there, sign him for 4 years for $120 million. Hurts is a backup quarterback at best. And that's when I started to laugh even harder. You guys then picked up a linebacker from Colorado that hardly anyone's ever heard of. In the 4th round, you went with a safety. And then you started to redeem yourself. You took both Auburn tackles. You took Jack Driscoll in the 4th round, and you took Prince Tega Wanuhu in the 6th round. Both of those picks are fantastic. Great choices. I think both of them could almost start this year. Great pickup there. I like that. Then you went and wasted 2 more picks on wide receivers named John Hightower and Quez Watkins. You're going to have 7 wide receivers. Why? You've got a quarterback who couldn't hit the friggin' wall. I don't understand it. Like, it's just it's a terrible, terrible thing. I'm not sure how anyone in Philadelphia is going to keep their job after this. Nate, I know you're a big Eagles fan at heart. How do you feel about them having 7 wide receivers on the board?
Well, first and foremost, Spinks. I actually like that name, Spinky, better.
It's worse.
Anyway, unlike you, I apologize to absolutely nobody. Well, with that being said, they wanted to get faster on the offensive side of the ball, and I think they've done that. But like many other people, I don't understand the Jalen Hurts. I think the 2nd round was a reach to begin with. Not only that, it wasn't a value pick. They went out of their way to go and get this guy. They traded up a good 10 or 11 to go get him. And he's going to be in a position where he's probably might have to make a couple starts. I mean, out of all the quarterback prospects that are there, I think he needs the most polishing or close to them as much polishing. Yes, Tom?
Now, my question I got to both Spinksy and Nate, which quarterback is angrier right now? Aaron Rodgers or Carson Wentz? Which one is angrier? Let's start with Spinks. Let's start with you first.
I think Aaron Rodgers is definitely angrier. I think Carson Wentz has had to fight off Nick Foles for the last couple of seasons. I think the 2 of them have sort of been in a quarterback battle before Foles got traded to the Jags, I think it was, yeah. So I think Aaron Rodgers is not used to having someone get picked in the 1st round to be his understudy. So I think Rodgers is probably more furious, I'd say. How do you feel, Nate?
Aaron Rodgers is a goddamn princess. That guy's ego is inflated the size of the solar system. Of course, he's going to take it the hardest. He thinks he walks on water. He thinks he deserves better than what he inherited in the league.
Well, hold on, Nate. I mean, he's in Green Bay. You can walk on water in Green Bay. It's freaking frozen, man.
No. Anyway, it's definitely Aaron Rodgers, the guy who's going to have the bigger issue with this. The funny thing is, the irony, that's exactly the situation he went into right now. Anyway, circling back to the Eagles pick, I think they've added much more team speed.
Yeah.
With that being said, did they reach in the later rounds for some of these receivers? Just to make a point.
I think
Tom.
I think at the end of the season, the Eagles wide receiver core was totally depleted. A lot of people were injured. The wide receivers could not catch a cold. So this is something they probably saw as a weakness. Even though they have guys under contract, they're probably like, know what? We're going to create competition and we need to move on. You know, they've invested doubly. I almost feel like for Carson Wentz, it's like you're trying to build up the team for my replacement, not me. And, you know, now let me ask you this question. Do you think Carson Wentz is cursed because the team won the Super Bowl when he was injured? Do you think that's always going to be the shadow he can't get over? What do you think about that, Nate?
Well, it's interesting because they've invested in him. I mean, they gave him a big contract. They got ahead of the contract. They didn't wait until he was going to be a potential free agent. They signed him.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it seems they get someone like Jalen Hurts. When I've heard an interesting point being brought up that the fact that they might try to run an offense like Lamar Jackson. So it almost seems like they could be building around a different quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah, it just seems he's got all these weapons on offense now. Because remember, they just traded for Marquise Goodwin too. So they've got Alshon Jeffrey, Marquise Goodwin, Deshaun Jackson, and Zach Ertz there. And now he's got in Jalen Reagor too. So he's got a lot of speed there. So I think if Carson Wentz can't be hitting these targets in 2020, he is gone. How do you feel, Van? Do you think you'll be seeing him after this year?
Well, I think you guys, have pretty much hit the nail on the head, kind of bouncing around it. They're not really creating competition in the wide receiver room. They are rolling it over. They are just ready to move on from every one of those guys. They are totally changed their template as to what they want in a wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. They are no longer going after those kind of guys. They're going after, Nate, you nailed it, speed. Speed on top of speed on top of speed. Wentz has got a big arm. He can get the ball downfield. They've got a tight end that can get up the seam. They have speed across the field now. They want to stretch it. This opens up angles for their type of running game, which works on angles and cutbacks. This is all in on Wentz, his skill set, and speed. Wouldn't you think, Spinks?
Yeah, look, they need to protect him as well. So I think taking Jack Driscoll in the 4th round and Prince Tega Awanuhu in the 6th round, both the Auburn tackles, 2 guys who have been together for the last 3 years, having them in front of him is definitely going to help. So he's going to have offensive weapons. He's going to have these 2 there to protect him. Overall, I'm going to give them a C. I think a C grade. It's fairly good. I don't think nothing jumps out at me. I think they're going to cause a lot more issues in the locker room by having a quarterback there. They could potentially have taken someone like Cole McDonald later in the draft and not upset everybody. So I'm going to give them a C.
Yeah, man, that's exactly what I have written down for them as well. It's tempting to go out and say, oh, well, I'm going to give them an F because of this, or that. But you have to look, it's 7 rounds. It's an entire draft. And they turned over an entire wide receiver room, which, to tell you the truth, that needed to be done. The guys they had there were not getting the job done. I don't think anybody here can argue with that. They lead the league in dropped passes. I mean, they have to. I've seen them.
Mhm.
What, Nate?
Nick Foles can argue with that.
True enough. True enough. Yeah. But I mean, regardless of how well Nick Foles did in his run, when Nick Foles went elsewhere, he sucked. Okay. So Nick Foles was not the long-term answer either. But there is also no denying that regardless of what happened with Nick Foles, Wentz has hit these guys in the hands and they've been dropping them at a rate that has been insane. Now, Wentz has his own problems, and I'm not letting him off the hook at all. But to not admit and say, hey, these wide receivers have absolutely sucked, that's truth. They have. So, yeah. Tom, what do you think?
Do you think instead of blaming, they might partially be looking at it, be like, you know what? We have two issues. We got wide receivers that can't catch and a quarterback that isn't as accurate. Do you think that could also be the other side of the coin where the Eagles are looking at, like, maybe if we got a different quarterback, things would have been different? Some of those, would have had better throws, all that stuff. Now,
You're right, but it's too late. I mean, they made their decision. I think you're absolutely right. And I think that goes a lot to why they're doing what they're doing now. If they're only going to get X number of catches a game, they want them further downfield.
I have a point to bring up here. Bill Parcells listed 7 traits that he looked for in a when evaluating a quarterback. That went
Right.
from either graduating, it went all the way from graduating college, a 2-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio, at least start 30 games, win 23 of them. And out of the prospects of this year's draft, the only guy to do that, all 7 of them, was Jalen Hurts. That's interesting.
That's a fun fact.
Like Parcells would have liked someone like Jalen Hurts. So it's not completely unfounded.
Okay.
Tom, what do you think, man?
All right, now let's name a successful quarterback Bill Parcells has drafted. Because when he won the Super Bowl with the Giants, Phil Simms already came in beforehand. Jeff Hostetler was kind of the backup. Hostetler moved on, and so did, I believe Drew Bledsoe in New England, I think.
He's had quite a few quarterbacks that have been successful with the Patriots. Then when they move on to other teams, not so successful.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's drafting for him, not for other people.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, the quarterbacks that he's drafted when they played for him, because he's got good draft picks for him when they've gone to other teams. So he does okay in that department. He does okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that this is absolutely bulletproof and he's going to be a stud, but he is a talented evaluator.
He's there. What they're saying on the surface is that they brought him in, as a QB, but also to add creativity to their offense. And they seem to be serious about going down the field, going with the speed. They are making changes. It remains to be seen. We've got 2 C's up on the board. Tom, what grade are you going to give them?
I will give him a C+, because this is why. If you draft enough at a position, you're going to hit on one. And wide receiver is a position where, you could have multiple guys on a team. You could have 3, 4, 5. It's not just one position like a left guard or a tackle, or especially QB. So I think going forward, the Eagles are probably going like, one of these guys will be a quality wide receiver going forward. So I give him a C+. And I think, this grade would have been different if they might have needed a quarterback or if they got a quarterback who's getting ready to retire. But I think I'm totally going with C+ because I wide receiver was a need for him. They did address it at some level. So I'm not sure about that. Nate, what do you think? How are you grading the Eagles?
I give them a B-, and mostly everyone gets hung up on the most polarizing pick, and that's Jalen Hurts. Now, besides that, what they really wanted to do is get faster particularly on offense, particularly when Alshon Jeffries went down and Deshaun Jackson went down. They had no way. The receivers were not separated. So he was largely reliant on the 2 tight ends. They went 2 tight end formation. They knew they had to get more juice. And it was a trend that you saw kind of throughout the league with this draft. You saw the Raiders doing the same thing. You saw the Broncos doing the same thing. And now you see someone like the Eagles doing the same thing, trying to add firepower. They're going to be playing the Cowboys, who just drafted C.D. Lamb, who are loaded at the position. They're going to be in positions to where they could have to be in shootouts next year. So I'm giving them a B minus. They got faster. I would like to have seen them get more depth in the secondary. That's why I give them a B minus.
All right. Well, let's keep moving around. Tom, you're up. New York Giants. They still have some picks to go in the 7th, I believe. But overall, their draft is in. How do you rate it?
I think, well, first off, the Giants had a strategy that you could see from free agency to now, and you can finally see the complete picture. In free agency, they primarily focused on defense as they signed linebacker Blake Martinez from the Green Bay Packers, and Dave Gettleman brought over cornerback James Bradbury from the Carolina Panthers to address those defensive needs. So once you address the defense, the Giants focus on offensive line, and they went with offensive tackle from Georgia, Andrew Thomas, who, you know, they could say could start at right tackle and or left tackle. He's a plug and play guy. Second round, they got what most people consider a steal, and Xavier McKinney, a safety from Alabama, dropping down. Last time the Giants drafted a safety from Alabama in the second round was Landon Collins. And they kept on, you know, strategy was improving the offensive line. And this showed up again in the third round as Matt Pert, offensive tackle from UConn, came in. This could be someone where Pert, he's not ready right now, but the question the Giants can ask now, instead of, you know, do we have a tackle, is, all right, which tackle are we going to go with? So that's kind of something that's changed in this draft. And then they kind of addressed, you know, cornerback in the fourth round when they went with Darnay Holmes, 5'10", 195 from UCLA. So as you can tell, you know, Dave Gettleman has focused on the secondary, drafted a lot of cornerbacks in the last few drafts, and they had a strategy, you know, and they stayed to it. You know, you got to wonder if Saquon Barkley and Daniel Jones will benefit from these offensive line picks. Now, I think I heard from everyone about how they feel about Andrew Thomas. Now, Spinksy, you're the draft expert. How do you feel about Matt Pert from UConn?
I like Matt Pert, but I think the best value pick you guys got was your guard, Shane Lemieux from Oregon. I had him going in the second round. So the fact that he's fallen all the way to you guys there is just sensational. I think that's a great pickup. And I can't see, of all the guys you picked up, maybe only Cameron Brown, the linebacker from Penn State in the 6th round, doesn't have the ability to start straight away. So I think you guys are going to look totally different on offense and defense in 2020. So very happy. I think you guys have actually done well. So nice work.
I think with Cam Brown from Penn State, 233 might be a little bit too light for a linebacker.
Lean, yeah.
Yeah, you probably need to bulk up a little bit. But Nate, how do you feel about the Giants draft?
I actually really like it. I actually thought you guys got because there wasn't really a consensus about who the best tackle in the draft was. You saw difference of opinion. I had Thomas actually the highest rated. And here's an interesting tidbit I heard from Rafael Vela, that the fact that Thomas has 36-inch arms, same measurement of Tyron Smith, the future Hall of Fame left tackle. I think that's a rare trait you have in someone. I actually really like him. I think he's a future Pro Bowler. And what I really liked about the draft the Giants had, a good 3 to 4 guys that have been drafted this draft will contribute, if not start, right away. McKinney's going to start right away. You're going to have Thomas most likely start right away. You're going to get Pert, who could probably kick inside as a rookie and probably start right away. So, I mean, you're getting value immediately.
You know, I think for me, being a Giant fan, I want to see how this offensive line looks going forward. I want to see how they are next year, you know, because I feel like Thomas would move over to left tackle. Then they can move Pert over to right tackle. They got those two bookends. The one thing I think they're missing would be center. But, you know, Van, how did you feel about the Giants draft?
Man, this is the kind of draft a team makes when they are the right kind of team, when it's a team that has a history. When you're the New York Giants, when you're the Steelers, teams like this, it's not a sexy draft. GMs like to have sexy drafts because they want to get a lot of press because they want to get paid. And that's not what they did here. They built for the future. Like you said, it's not necessarily for this year. Some of this is going to really come to fruition in a couple of years down the road. But these are building block drafts. Andrew Thomas, what you were talking about, I think some other teams were maybe overlooking him a little bit, saying he wasn't as strong as he needed to be because he only had 21 reps in the bench press for an offensive lineman. But they overlooked the fact he has 36-inch arms. When you got arms that long, 21 reps at 225 is insane, man. That the guy is plenty strong enough. Wouldn't you say, Spinksy?
Yeah, I really like what the Giants are doing on defense. We just spoke about how offensive the Eagles are going to be going forward, and then we're obviously going to talk about the Cowboys soon. We're going to have two teams in the division that are very offensive heavy, and so I think what the Giants are doing in the backfield with Darnay Holmes, the new safety out of Alabama, and the guys they already have there, I think the Giants are shoring up that backfield a lot more. So I think it's going to be harder on us to be scoring touchdowns against them in 2020 rather than what we usually do to you guys, Tom.
Well, usually there's like one blowout and one heartbreaker.
Yeah.
But this is going to be something going forward where, the one thing is, though, if you have a weak defense, you try to have a grinded out offense, a ball control offense, kind of like what the Titans did and what got them to the AFC Championship game. Right. I just do not see Saquon Barkley as a grinded out back. He's kind of more the home run hitter. Nate, how do you feel about Saquon Barkley? Is he more the grounded out running back, or is he more, a big play back?
I think he's a big play guy myself. It's hard to see him. You kind of need to just have him come in for maybe the third down. Like he's not really going to be the guy doing all year legwork over and over again. But you remember that first year he came in, he was awesome because he was all you had. You had no offensive weapons. You had no one. So it was just, here you go, buddy, and just run. Mm-hmm. So he can do it, but I think he's more about the flashy side of it. Dan, how do you feel, mate?
Well, Tom, who was it that the Giants used to have at running back? He was there with Barber, I think, 6'4".
Ron Dane.
Who?
Ron Dane.
Yeah. I mean, the guy was insane. They need somebody like that to put with Barkley. Okay. And say, on first down, on short yardage, when we need to pound it, don't you worry about it, man. We're going to give it to this guy, and use Barkley less because he is a big play guy. That's what I think. Would you agree with that, Tom?
I think the running back you're thinking about was Brandon Jacobs.
That's it, Brandon Jacobs. Yeah. Not
and
Ron
he was paired up with Ahmad Bradshaw.
That's it. Yeah. And he was a beast, man.
I think what they might try to do is, you bring up a good point, and it's also like you got to see how the Giants are. Like, are we contending? Should we, save carries for Saquon Barkley? They have Wayne Gallman as a running back.
Right.
Who would probably is the number 2 running back. I was kind of wondering, I was going to see if they were going to draft a running back, but I think that the strategy was like, let's solve this offensive line issue. Let's develop that, because if you're Dave Gettleman, you are connected to the success of Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley.
Well, and that's what this draft pick does. I mean, it backs up the quarterback. It looks down the road. It's not about this year. Offensive tackle, safety, offensive tackle, cornerback, offensive guard, linebacker, edge, linebacker. You're drafting for the meat of your team. You are turning your team over. This is a really impressive draft for me. I gave them a B+ on this draft. I really like it. There's a lot of supporting figures there. And like Nate pointed out, there's a lot of guys that are going to step in and play.
Yeah, I found having those two offensive tackles from Auburn together, that's going to help them heaps. You're going to have two guys there who already know each other's game. So that's really going to help the running game going forward. So I'm going to go B+ as well. Well done, New York.
All right, Nate, how do you feel? How are you grading the Giants?
I give them an A- despite my better judgment. I'll set that aside, but Yeah, I really think I think a lot of people fall into the trap of trying to develop years from now, but you get guys that can contribute now right away. I mean, this wasn't an experimental draft. You went after the unsexy picks. They're going to contribute year one, a lot of them. So I give it an A minus.
I would say I'm going to give it a B, and this is why. One, they lost the third round pick in Leonard Williams in the Leonard Williams trade, and I think they could have easily snatched someone up there who's potentially more. And I think the Giants did not get that edge rusher, which is something, they desperately needed. Marcus Golden led the team in sacks. It looks like the Giants are going to let him walk. And it's something like the Giants defense, there's a lot of ifs. If Dexter Lawrence keeps on developing, if Leonard Williams plays up to their franchise tag, then all of a sudden, hey, great. It's a lot of ifs. If they got another edge rusher in this draft, it could be like, oh, okay, they probably would have addressed all their needs. So that's what I think it's going to happen. So, Van, what's the next team we're talking about now?
All right. Well, right now it is the Washington Redskins. And man, there is a lot to talk about the Washington Redskins draft. First of all, it's going to be a good draft when you get the best player in the draft. Boom, Chase Young. I don't think anybody really argues that he is the best player. I've seen some other players on the top of certain boards, but the general consensus is Chase Young is there. And he is a handful. And what is beautiful about this kid is he's still basic, right, Spinksy? He's not a weaponized version is the term that I've heard used. He just gets out there and does it with just, he's quicker, he's faster, and he's stronger than you. Once he gets a few moves, yeah, go ahead.
It's just raw talent. I think I'm not even sure he's been coached the exact right way to do anything. So I think going to the Redskins, which have been a dominant force over time, not so much lately, but having a good coach there to actually hone his skills, this guy's going to be scary. I wouldn't want to be a quarterback in the NFC East because this kid is coming after you from day one. So look out Dak, look out Carson Wentz, or look out Daniel Jones, or we all know Carson Wentz won't be there. But yeah, this kid is scary good.
I mean, he's going to slide right in and be the heir apparent to Kerrigan. Kerrigan, I think, is something like 32 or something like that. But this is a heck of a fit for them. I'm so glad that they did not trade out of there, no matter what Nate would have got for them. I mean, I'm sure it would have been insane.
Great master.
I'm still glad that they hung. And then next they go down and they get Antonio Gibson. All right. Speed is also what the Redskins did. And I tell you what, for Dallas Cowboys, man, they needed every cornerback they could get a hold of. And you'll see why as this draft unfolds. Not only did the Eagles go ahead and really get a lot of speed on their team, this is what the Redskins did as well. 4.39 40-yard dash. That's fast. Okay. That's just all there is to it. The kid can do it all. He's a great athlete. He's played some running back as well. So he's good after the catch. The guy's got wheels. He is a home run hitter. Next up, you have Shadiq Charles, offensive tackle. He played, where was it, Nate? He played some, yeah.
We got catfishing down there.
And so actually with that, rather than me pontificate on the 6'4", 321-pound behemoth, Spinks, talk to us about him a little bit, okay?
So the guy who's built like an actual fridge ran a 5.05 40-yard dash. That is one of the quickest of all the linemen at this year's NFL draft. That kid is quick and big and strong and powerful. He helped opening up gaps for LSU running back, which name escapes me at the moment, this year. And he did wonders. Very impressed with his pickup. The Giants, the Redskins just need some solid guys to run behind him. Hopefully Peterson stays fit. Darius Geis gets more of a chance. And yes, Sadiq Charles is a great spot here. Well done.
Oh yeah, he saw, and I'm so glad you brought up the speed because again, team speed, even their offensive linemen. And for people out there watching, if you don't think 5-something is fast. It's faster than you. Okay. I mean, that is fast, man. These 300-pound guys. Go ahead, Tom, explain that.
Well, I was going to say with this, most NFL players would probably beat me in any type of physical contest. So I'll just, you win. You got me.
Yeah.
Past my
Don't
prime.
arm wrestle them. Don't play
nothing. Maybe in a
thumbs.
game of
Just
Madden.
don't do it. Okay,
Maybe in a game of Madden.
Especially if it's
my
Michael
one
Jordan.
question to everyone is, will the Washington Redskins be able to change the culture under Daniel Snyder as the owner?
I think this is his best shot yet.
Nate,
his
how do you feel
best
about it?
effort,
No, I don't think so. I think Ron Rivera is a 500 coach. I mean, we always talk about Jeff Fisher and Jason Garrett being the 8-8 coach. I mean, I think you have someone like Ron Rivera up there with it. And much like the Dallas Cowboys, the foreskins know they work for Daniel Snyder. They don't work for Ron Rivera.
Nope.
So they'll go. The players know this too. They'll go right over his head. They'll go to Daniel Snyder if they have a problem, and he'll cut down the coach at the knees.
So it remains to be seen, but I got to say this is Snyder's biggest cut yet at changing the way that he operates. It totally remains to be seen, but I like what they're doing in the draft. Let's jump back to that. Antonio Gandy Golden, wide receiver, is the next guy that they took. Only a 4.6 40 for him, but he's 6'4", 223 pounds. Nate, explain how that works in the red zone.
Well, when you have it's going to be a lot of incomplete passes when you have a quarterback that needs hooked on phonics. So,
well, there is that. There is that. Okay, and that is an issue that will have to be dealt with. But again, they took and they got him speed with the earlier wide receiver. Here, they got him a red zone target, a big guy that can really go out and gather the ball and bring it in. Then they go out to San Diego State. They get an offensive center and Keith Ismail. This guy is solid 6'3", 309 pounds. They're still drafting good players here. Even at this point, they're like 4 or 5 players deep. They're still bringing on guys that can contribute for them. I really like this draft. And this guy's 40-yard dash is 5.34. Again, the team speed. Then you jump down to Michigan linebacker Kaliki Hudson, 4.56 40. Nice team speed again. They're doing a lot here, but he's still 224 pounds. He is under 6 foot, though, just barely, but he's under 6 foot. But supposedly he can still cover, etc. Spinksy, do you have anything on this guy, Hudson?
Yeah, Hudson is strong, man. He bench pressed 30 reps. It was the third highest of this year's NFL combine, and he ran a 4.56 40-yard dash. So, despite being just under 6 foot, he is quick and strong. So, very good pickup here. I had a 5th round grade on this guy, so it's about where he should have gone. But I think the Redskins have done well for a guy like this to fall into that lap.
As we mentioned, Tom, you do not want to arm wrestle these guys, right? Cameron Curl, Arkansas safety, 6'1", 206 pounds, got a 4.6 40, bench presses 24 times, got a 34.5 vertical. This kid can come in. He can help them. I can't believe that they're getting this much talent this late in the draft. And then they get an edge rusher for the last guy, James Smith-Williams. That's what they needed, was more edge rushers. 6'4", 265 pounds, Spinksy. I actually like this kid. I've seen a couple games on him. He's a strong guy himself, 28 bench reps, but he still gets a 4.6 40, man, 123-inch broad jump, 32-inch vertical. This kid is a spark athlete. He could really be a surprise pick for them late.
Yeah, this is a good pickup here. I've seen him, like you said, in a few games. He's very light on his feet for someone so big, like 265 pound, but seems to have springs in his knees. He just moves really nicely, and yeah, this is a good pickup.
All right. So basically, I give them the best draft, my best grade for a team in the NFC East. I give them an A+. You get the plus because you got the best player in the draft, But if you take away the fact that he was the best player in the draft, and I just look at everybody that they did, the way that they addressed what they're doing with their team, they're all in. You might not believe in Haskins, but they do. They're sticking with him. And I give this an A+ all the way.
Yeah, I see.
Well, Tom, what do you think, man?
You know what? I'll probably put them in the B+ category. They got Chase Young, who could be the breakout player of this draft. They also shored up the offensive line. And, because right after they got Chase Young, they're like, you know what? We need to shore up our offense. They got Gibson and Gandy Golden as wide receivers. And then they got Charles from LSU, who Spinksy knows about. So they had a strategy going forward. It's also, too, that one elite pass rusher can totally change the defense. And this is what they anticipate Chase Young can do for the Washington Redskins.
But now, Tom, it's not just one elite, is it? I mean, when you look at what they have in there, look at what they got last year with Sweat, all right? And then they have Kerrigan in the fold, who is an elite pass rusher. So now they have the magic 3, which is what the 49ers had. I think this could get really painful for other teams in the NFC East.
It could. You just got to wonder. The one question that people might ask down the line is, depending on how the career of Herbert and Tua go and how Haskins does, was this the opportunity for the Redskins to finally get their great quarterback, their franchise quarterback? That's the only thing. It seems like that, Chase Young, there's high expectations. He has all the measurables. You just got to wonder if he'll live up to those expectations. Nate, how do you feel about the Redskins draft?
Yeah, I look at it completely different. I think Chase Young's a monster, and then they got him. And they, as Dan pointed out, you point him to the guys they've already drafted. They already have Ryan Kerrigan, who's a monster on the other side. They've invested in 2 tackles in consecutive years from Bama with scheme versatility. And they also medical redshirted Sweat from the year before. So they have options now. They're looking at the Niners, who were picking at 2 the year before that, had Nick Bosa, and took that team to a completely different level defensively, without a whole lot of talent in the secondary other than Richard Sherman. I think the Redskins are going after that same model. However, other than Chase Young, I don't see a whole lot of people that I see contributing to that team. Not right away, and 3 years from now, I think the only player I can see contributing is the offensive lineman from LSU. Other than that, I think these are a lot of gamble picks that they like athletically, but I didn't see the production in college. And when you get to teams like that, I don't trust teams like the Redskins to develop that athletic talent like I would in a different organization. I give them a C.
I actually agree with what you just said, mate. I think the additions they've made during the off season and last year are going to help their team more than the additions they just put into this draft now. Chase Young, definitely hands down one of the best guys there is. But if you take him out of it, I'm going to give him a C+. Here's guys. So who's next? Big Dallas Cowboys.
I think it's a great draft for them, for Ron Rivera. And, Nate, you got to agree with this, okay? It doesn't really matter what anybody here or anybody out there in the blogosphere may actually write about Haskins or anything like that. It's not going to matter because, he's not going to be able to read it anyhow.
Yeah, right.
So, doesn't matter what we think, okay? Doesn't matter.
Read hieroglyphics or something.
The kid can play. I think it boils down to, can they create an offensive scheme that he can work? That's it. I mean, he's not going to run what Peyton Manning ran.
Yeah, and I guess this comes down to we can pontificate all we want about players that teams passed up. That doesn't mean that they would have the same results. Bears fans pontificate, well, if we had drafted Mitchell Trubisky, instead of drafting Mitchell Trubisky, we drafted Patrick Mahomes, things would be completely different.
Oh, yeah, the dominoes.
Yes, but, at the same time, you have to have the organizational structure to develop the talent. That's
true, and that's what I like with Ron Rivera bringing in there. I mean, that's a coach. One of the things that he does, he's a defensive-minded coach. He's done well. He has a history of developing good defenses. Plus, with the Redskins themselves, they have the history there along that defensive line. They've done a good job there, continuously bringing pressure. He's got a class guy to learn from. The wide receiver department is where I think that you have the biggest point, and that is where they rolled the biggest dice, is with their wide receiver development. But they got to do something. So, and hey, that brings us to the Dallas Cowboys. So back in your court, Natester.
That's right, you jabronis. It is about that time for the Dallas Cowboys, America's team, with an A+ grade. Oh my goodness, I can't contain myself. I have to adjust my chair, and I have to make sure to get all up in your grill. But at this time, at 17, the 1%er, the 1% chance that we had to go and get an elite talent at wide receiver, he fell right into our lap. I'm talking about CD Lamb. CD Lamb fell right into their lap, a dream scenario. Originally, I was worried that they were going to run out of talent at 17. I thought they were going to have to panic and trade out of it because I did not see them getting the value at pick 17. But luck had it, and they drafted CD Lamb, who's going to contribute right away. Second round, they drafted a guy from Bama, Trayvon Diggs, who a guy they were talking about in the first round. If CD Lamb and AJ Terrell were off the board, you could honestly see them in a scenario drafting Trayvon Diggs at 17 overall. Instead, they hung tight. They didn't panic. They got him at 51. Now, another guy, he's probably going to start immediately. He's probably going to be the cornerback 2 or possibly number 1. Scheme flexibility, something they're valuing in free agency. Pick number 3, they feed the well with the big boys. Fat boys get love too. They get the defensive tackle from Oklahoma. A pet project here. Probably not going to contribute as a rookie. I have a couple veteran players at the defensive tackle at the moment. Year 2 and 3. High upside guy with a big motor, a lot of athletic ability. A lot of people say he's going to be a better pro than he was a college player. Now into round 4, it gets interesting. They double dipped at cornerback. They get a 90th percentile cornerback in Robinson the second. A guy who probably won't play a lot as a rookie, probably might have a chance of starting year 2 because they have Jordan Lewis and they have Chidobe Awuzie in contract years at the moment. Gives the Cowboys some breathing room at the moment at the cornerback position. And one of my favorite picks actually was in the 5th round, and they got Jonathan Anay. I'm sorry, I'm pronouncing that right. A guy who dropped significantly because he tested at the 4.9 in the 40-yard dash. Teams were turned off by him. Had 30-something sacks at Utah. That's elite production. And this wasn't at Wyoming State A&M. This was in the Pac-12. And then I also want to bring this up to Tom because another guy that you were high on was Wisconsin center in the late 4th round. He has a chance to start right away at center. Even though the Cowboys drafted another guy in Connor McGovern the year before. He's going to continue. He's going to be in competition to start at center. If he doesn't, he might be the starting left guard because Connor Williams is recovering from an ACL injury. Great value.
Now, Nate, let me ask you this one. Which one do you think was the most value pick outside of CD Lamb?
Outside of CD Lamb, God, I'm in a toss-up right now, either between Trayvon Diggs, because they were trying to trade up to get him at one point. Either Trayvon Diggs or I'm going to go Trayvon Diggs. A guy they were thinking was not going to make it out of the 1st round. They were fairly aggressively trying to trade up, and they landed to him at 51. I mean, they already have considered a loaded roster. And you add from just this draft, I just named 4 guys that could at least get significant snaps, if not starting this year.
I think the Cowboys' most best value pick was Tyler Biadasz, the center from Wisconsin. He was a 4-year starter with Wisconsin. He was actually my top-ranked center. There was a couple who ended up going earlier than he did, but to get him in the 4th round, at Wisconsin, they had one move. They give the football to Jonathan Taylor. Taylor had 6,000 yards across 3 seasons. I think the lowest he had was 1,900 yards one year. They give the ball to him. He runs behind Bjardish, touchdown every time. Scored like 70 touchdowns in 3 years. And the reason is because of Tyler Bjardish. So him lining up in front of Dak and Zeke is only going to help the Cowboys going forward. If they can get Connor McGovern healthy or stick him on one side or the other, these two are going to be good.
Yeah, it's exactly right. You feed the strong suits, you win up front. And in the first 5 picks, there was 3 of them went to either the front 7 on defense, or they went to the offensive line.
Yeah.
A strong suit already. So the evil empire gets more and more powerful. So with that being said, you already know, I've explained the goddamn obvious. I have an A+ rating for Jerry and Company.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I've got an A rating for Jerry and Company, and for basically the same reasons that you talked about for the Washington Redskins, very similar ones anyhow. Because it doesn't matter the value of your pick. What matters is who did you get? Now, there is no denying, and I love the value of the first 2 picks with CeeDee Lamb and Trevon Diggs. The value is awesome. But like when you compare it against the Redskins, for instance, one is CeeDee Lamb, the other one is the best player in the NFL. Now, hey, the Redskins just happened to suck that bad last year to where they had that pick. But as it boils down to it, the players are both very good, but one was a lot better. Still, the Cowboys got incredible value at that pick. Trevon Diggs is an incredible talent, okay? No denying that. But there's a reason he dropped in a unit, the cornerbacks, that were not entirely deep. And this kid dropped. That's because there were red flags. So the Cowboys did take a chance here, and they were willing to do it in the first round. That worries me. What do you got to say about that, Nate?
Well, let's compare both the teams. The Redskins have a much worse roster on their hands, and they're going to get less players that are going to contribute right away.
Well, let me finish dancing down your list here of guys, okay? Because now you're comparing the complete breakdown that I've already done, and I haven't finished ripping up your sorrowful appreciation of your picks. Because now you got Trevon Diggs, who's a red flag that they were willing to take a risk on in the first, but instead they take a risk on him in the second. Then they get Neville Gallimore, okay, who's a guy that has 2 other guys in front of him. How much is he going to contribute this year? Hopefully not much. And if he contributes this year, that means the other 2 guys aren't contributing. They have some problems at that position that they need to deal with. Tom?
My understanding is I do believe why Jerry Jones could care less about red flags when it comes to character or whatever else. Spinksy or Nate, do you know, or Van, do you know why?
Oh, why he doesn't care about red flags?
Yes. There's a draft story where Jerry Jones was like, know what? I don't care. I'm going to take guys. It's about talent on the field. Anyone know which player that is?
Oh, no, I don't know what specific story you're talking about. I do know that the way that he looks at it, he looks at the talent on the field. He doesn't care about what's off the field. That they just he's looking at the home run.
Ding, ding, ding. Nate got it. It was Randy Moss.
Okay.
Basically,
well,
because Randy
goes to how the way it worked out in that situation was basically the scouting department was jumping on the table for Randy Moss. And then at the time, it was Chan Gailey was the head coach, and Chan Gailey wanted no part of Randy Moss. He sided with the head coach. The rest is history.
Yeah. All right. And so then, anyhow, you go. Well, go ahead, Spinks. Jump. Pile in here before we go down the list.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the 5th round pick that we took, edge rusher from Utah, Bradley and I. I've just been doing some more extra research on him as I should. The kid had 30 sacks over the last 3 years, 13 and a half sacks in 2019 for Utah. This kid gets after the football really fast, man. Very impressed. I can't actually see him sort of starting straight away. But definitely in the next year or 2, he'll be coming off the edge for the Cowboys, definitely. Really,
He's a
like
great
this
pick.
pickup.
He really is a great pick. And to me, that's where Dallas did. I'm with you, Spinks. This is where Dallas actually did the best in the draft. CD Lamb was staring him right in the face. I give Jerry credit for not panicking and not doing something fancy and making the football decision there and taking it. But where the Cowboys really shine this year, I think, is in round 4 and round 5 with the pick at center and the pick on the edge there. Those two picks are what drive them up and force me to give them an A in their draft because it's a 7-round draft. And I think they hit home runs in the 4th and the 5th round. And that's gold. That's gold.
Where the Redskins only had 1 pick that's going to contribute.
I'd be giving the Cowboys an A+ as well, but I'd give them an A+ without CD Lamb. I think what they've done, those later rounds, have been exceptional. To pick up of Tyler Biadasz and Bradley and I, they're huge. So for the Cowboys to be able to just wait and get those guys instead of having to sort of trade around it and move too much, very, very impressed with Mike McCarthy's first draft with the Cowboys. If this is anything to go off, I want him to stay there forever. This is a great pick. So,
Tom, what's your official grade?
You know, I think considering where the Cowboys were drafting and the talent they got, I'll probably give them an A-. You know, we mentioned about CD Lamb. They drafted cornerbacks. Guess what? Both of them are 6'1", 205. Very similar grades going forward. It's just the one thing too. Let me ask you this question. You know, you ask, you know, it's the guy who you get. You know, if you get a cornerback right now, you know, that was a need for the Cowboys. Who would be, you know, in the NFC East? Who would the Dallas Cowboys match up with their number 1 corner in man coverage? You know, is there a viable threat at wide receiver in the NFC East where you got to be like, know what, we got to stop this guy to win this game? Is that viable threat in the NFC East?
You know, the Giants had a guy, OJ something. I forget, but I mean, you know, he's the only one.
Yeah, but I mean, and conversely, you're adding a lot of speed in the division. The Redskins had a guy last year from McLaren who was
Deshaun Jackson. If you don't watch Deshaun Jackson, you're dead. I would say, hands down, he's probably the most dangerous resume in the NFC East.
They've just signed Marquise Goodwin from the 49ers. So
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of talent out there. I mean, there's a lot of talent. But when you're looking at it, you know, what you just said, Tom, and go like, hey, man, we have to stop this guy. Okay, you better always keep a safety over the top on Jackson. He will fly by you. He has set a record. I can't remember exactly what it is on the number of long touchdowns since he's been in the league. I mean, nobody does it like he does it. Every year he is exploding. He'll have a game or about 3 or 4 games a year where he will have multiple long touchdowns on him. This guy is insane.
Yeah, well, my big issue with Jackson as of recently is he's had the injury bug toward the late of his career in Washington. Right. And then in Tampa as well. And then he missed the majority of last year in Philadelphia. So
well, as we get older, we do find we don't bounce as well. Right, Tom?
You know, my question, I'll ask this to Spinks. Where on the knucklehead category do you rate Deshaun Jackson? You know, is he like an Antonio Brown, Odell Beckham Jr.? Where does he rank in, you know, annoying wide receivers?
Oh, he's definitely up there, mate. Definitely. From what sort of everyone talks about in the locker room, he's not that nice to be around. So I find it very difficult. I know NFL stars have always got big heads and they earn a lot of money and they think that their shit don't stink. But sometimes it's about the team, not about the individual. And I think that's why teams like the Patriots do well, because it's more about the team. Whereas I think too many guys like Odell Beckham going out on the boat that time before the game. Like, I just think there's not enough respect for guys around you. How do you feel, Nate?
Well, with Deshaun Jackson, it's genetic. One of the big things that turned teams off when he was getting drafted into the league is his dad. His dad was always the kind of guy who thought he should be coaching the team from high school, did the same thing at Cal.
That's
One of
true.
the things Andy Reid said to him when this is during the draft call, when he fell to the second round because he did poorly with interviews, he said, "Are we going to have to worry about your dad?" You know, so and that was a big part of his.
You know, but at least you can't blame him for that. And then you turn around to a player like the cornerback Grimes who marries that issue. Okay, now with him, it's his wife, right? Okay, like, are we? Yeah, wherever he goes, they're worried about her. All right, guys. As it turns out, let's wrap this up. The Cowboys come out with the highest rating in the draft. The Giants second, the Skins third, and the Eagles a very, very lonely last place. But actually, I don't think the NFC East did bad across the board. I think the NFC East got more dangerous, and insofar as what they're doing to each other, I think across the board, the NFC East got faster.
It's going to be college football games in the NFC East for the next 3 years. 55 to 56 score. It's going to be no defense at all. It's going to be Chase Young and no one else, and just offensive weapons downfield. It's going to be great.
Well, if it's college, then Nate, that means Haskins has got a chance, right?
Yeah. You have to actually pass a test to get into college. So,
all right, Tom, wrap this up, man. Bring it home.
Well, I was going to say this, we talked about feared offensive weapons. Is there a feared defensive player in the NFC East? Nate, let's start with you.
Well, I think now you have to say Chase Young. I mean, I think he's and actually definitely. You look at the Philadelphia Eagles with Fletcher Cox. I mean, he's one of the best defensive tackles in the league, and they paired him up with Hargrave, the free agent from Pittsburgh. So they're looking nasty up front. I think the Eagles, at least in the front seven, are not going to be, or at least the front four, are not hurting for talent, and they're big up there too.
No. All right. Well, there it is all the way around. We've rated it. We've done it. Everyone out there watching, be sure and leave in the comments below what team you think did the best. Leave your grade. Who do you agree with? Who do you disagree with? And be sure and hit that subscribe, that notify bell. And as we go around, you can find Spinksy on Twitter at Spinksy NFL. Spinksy, thanks so much for being here, sir. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, guys.
All right. Nate, you'll find him on Twitter at No Remorse Sports. There he is, yes. The man, the Natester. And Tom McAllister, always a pleasure, sir, at defends_com, holding down the New York front. And this has been Sports Talk Line. Thank you so much for being here. And until next time, watch and listen like you play with intensity.